Captain Han sat in the cold metal chair and watched the alien creatures talk about humans like they were children. The Galactic Council chamber was huge and white, with seats arranged in circles around a bright stage. Thousands of different alien species filled the seats, but humans only had 20 chairs in the back corner. Ambassador Kim touched Han's arm gently. She had been Earth's voice in this place for 10 years, and Han could see the tiredness in her eyes. Today was supposed to be different. Today, Lee was going to show the Council something amazing that could change everything. The current speaker was a Vorthak, one of the big gray aliens with too many arms. Its voice came through the translation device as a low rumble. The human proposal for joint colonization is rejected. Humans lack the wisdom to govern new worlds properly. Han felt his jaw tighten. For 50 years, humans had been part of the Galactic Council. They paid their taxes, followed every rule, and shared their discoveries freely. In return, they got treated like dangerous pets that might bite their owners. Lee walked to the center stage carrying a small black device. She was nervous, but Han knew she was also the smartest person in the room, maybe the smartest person in the galaxy. The device in her hands could let people talk instantly across the entire galaxy, no matter how far apart they were. "Council members," Lee began, her voice steady. "Today I want to show you something that will help all our species work together better." She placed the device on the stage and pressed a button. Suddenly voices filled the air. Clear voices speaking different alien languages all at the same time. The device was connecting to similar machines placed in distant star systems, thousands of light years away. "This is instant communication across any distance," Lee explained.
No delays, no signal loss.
Ships could stay in contact with their homeworlds always. Colonies could call for help immediately. Trade could happen in real time across the galaxy. The council chamber was quiet. Some aliens leaned forward, interested. Others whispered to each other. Han felt hope rising in his chest. This technology could make the galaxy smaller, safer, better. The ethereal collective's representative floated forward. The ethereals looked like jellyfish made of light, and they claimed to be the oldest and wisest species in the galaxy. "This technology seems useful," it said, its voice like wind chimes. "The council will form a committee to study it. Humans will provide all technical details for proper evaluation." Lee's face went pale. "Sir, this technology is very complex. My team and I could help implement it properly. We understand how it works." A Silicon Syndicate delegate rolled forward on metal wheels. The syndicates were machines that had replaced their biological creators long ago. "Human assistance will not be needed. We will handle technical matters. Humans may observe if they prove helpful." Han watched Lee's shoulders slump. Another human innovation about to be taken away and given to others. The same thing had happened with faster-than-light medicine, gravity manipulation, and stellar engineering. Humans invented it, shared it freely, then got pushed aside while others took credit. Ambassador Kim stood up slowly. "Council members, humanity has been a loyal partner for 5 decades. We have shared our knowledge, paid our contributions, and followed every directive. Yet we are still treated as junior members. When do we become equals?" The Vorthak speaker made a sound like grinding metal, which the translator turned into laughter. "Humans are young and aggressive. You have been in space for only a few hundred years. Other species have traveled the stars for thousands of years. Patience is required." "How much patience?" Kim asked. "We have proven ourselves countless times. Our technology advances your civilization. Our explorers map new territories. Our diplomats prevent wars. What more must we do?" The ethereal floated higher, its light pulsing. "Humans must learn their place. The galaxy is vast and old. Wisdom comes from experience, not from clever inventions." In the back corner, Counselor Yoon sat very still. She had learned to stay quiet in these meetings and listen carefully. The other aliens often forgot she was there, and sometimes they said things they thought no human would hear. As Lee packed up her device and the council moved on to other business, Yoon noticed several alien delegates gathering in a small group. She activated her personal recording device and turned up the sensitivity. "The human communication technology is exactly what we need for the Outer Rim territories," one Vorthak was saying. "Our supply lines are too slow." "Agreed," replied a syndicate unit. "We should acquire the complete technical specifications immediately. The humans will provide them, as they always do." "What about human participation in the development?" asked an ethereal. The Vorthak made that grinding laugh again. Why would we need them? Once we have the plans, our own engineers can improve the design. Humans think too small anyway. The humans are becoming restless, the ethereal observed. Today's questions showed dissatisfaction. Let them complain, the syndicate said. Where would they go? They need the council more than we need them. They are isolated without us. Yoon felt ice in her stomach. She kept recording as the aliens continued talking. Perhaps we should limit their expansion further, the Vorthak suggested. They currently control 12 star systems. That might be too many for such a young species. I agree, the ethereal said. Humans breed quickly and spread fast. 3 systems should be sufficient for their population. 3 systems. Yoon thought about the billions of humans living across their 12 worlds. About the families who had built lives on distant planets. About the children born under alien suns who had never seen Earth. The conversation continued, but Yoon had heard enough. She quietly left the chamber and walked quickly to where Captain Han and Ambassador Kim were waiting. We need to talk, she said quietly. Privately now. They found an empty room away from the main corridors. Yoon played the recording for them. As the alien voices filled the small space, she watched her colleagues' faces change from curiosity to anger, to something else. Something cold and determined. 3 systems, Kim said softly. They want to cage us. They're planning to take Lee's technology and cut us out completely, Han added. Just like always, but worse this time, Yoon nodded. And they think we'll just accept it because we have nowhere else to go. Admiral Park appeared in the doorway. He was old and gray, but his eyes were sharp. I heard raised voices. Problems?
Kim played the recording again.
Park listened without speaking, his face like stone. When it finished, he was quiet for a long moment. 50 years, he finally said. 50 years of loyalty, sharing, and cooperation. And this is what they really think of us. What do we do? Han asked. Park looked at each of them carefully. We remember that respect cannot be demanded. It must be earned or it must be taken. And we remember that sometimes the only way to teach someone your value is to show them what life looks like without you. Outside the small room, the Galactic Council continued its session. Alien delegates made decisions about territory and resources and trade routes. They felt secure in their ancient wisdom and established power. None of them noticed that the humans had stopped talking and started thinking. None of them realized that 50 years of patience was about to come to an end. The universe was about to learn what it had taken for granted. President Cho looked around the secure conference room at Luna Base. The room was deep underground, protected by layers of metal and energy shields that blocked all outside signals. 27 people sat at the long table, representing every human colony and military command. You all heard the recording, Cho said quietly. Now you know what they really think of us. Admiral Park placed his hands flat on the table. The question is simple. Do we stay and accept being caged, or do we leave and build our own future? Dr. Nam shifted in her chair. As head of human research, she knew exactly how much the galaxy depended on human science. If we leave, they'll lose more than they think. Our medical advances keep half their species healthy. Our engineering designs hold their space stations together. But they don't know that, said Commander Bay. They think they can just copy our work and improve it themselves. Engineer Song smiled grimly. Let them try. Every human-built system has safeguards they don't know about. Hidden shutdown codes, self-destruct sequences, dependency locks. We learned to protect our work after they stole our first gravity drive. Cho nodded slowly. So we're all agreed. Complete withdrawal from the Galactic Council. One by one, every person in the room raised their hand. The vote was unanimous, but it felt heavy. Humanity was about to step into the unknown. This cannot be rushed, Cho continued. If they suspect what we're planning, they might try to stop us by force. We need at least 6 months to prepare. Diplomat Jin leaned forward. I can maintain normal relations. Keep attending meetings, filing reports, acting like nothing has changed. My staff can do the same. Perfect, said Cho. Nam, I need you to secure all our research data. Everything we've shared with the Council needs to be copied and protected. Dr. Nam nodded. Already started. My teams are working through the night. But there's something else. She paused, looking around the room. We've been sharing our basic technologies with the Council for 50 years. But we kept our advanced research secret. They have no idea what we're really capable of. Explain, Admiral Park said. Remember Lee's communication device? That was version 1. We have version 7 running in our secure networks right now. It doesn't just allow instant communication. It can manipulate space-time, create temporary wormholes, even phase matter in and out of normal reality. The room was silent. Even these senior leaders hadn't known how far human science had advanced. We've been preparing for independence longer than anyone realized, Dr. Nam continued. The Council thinks we're dependent on them, but the truth is reversed. They've become dependent on us. Scientist O entered the room carrying a small device. She was young but brilliant. One of the few people who understood the deepest levels of human technology. Sorry, I'm late. I was running final tests on the quantum resonance networks. She placed the device on the table. It looked simple, just a black cube the size of a book. This connects to every piece of human technology in Council space. With one signal, we can shut down everything we've ever built or designed. Commander Bay whistled softly. How much of their infrastructure do we control? More than they know, O replied. Their communications rely on our quantum relays. Their transportation uses our efficiency algorithms. Their defense systems run on our power distribution networks. Even their food production depends on our agricultural software. Captain Kang spoke up. What about our people? We have thousands of humans working in Council space. That's my job, Commander Bay said. We'll recall them slowly, quietly. Family emergencies, job transfers, research assignments. Nothing that looks like an organized withdrawal. Engineer Song pulled up a holographic map showing human-controlled space. Our 12 star systems are more connected than the Council realizes. We've been building our own trade networks, our own communication lines, our own defensive systems. We can survive independently. More than survive, said Admiral Lim. Our military assets are already moving. The Council thinks our ships are on routine patrols, but we're actually establishing a security perimeter around human space. President Cho felt a weight settling on her shoulders.
This will change everything.
Once we leave, there's no going back. Good, said Admiral Park. We've spent 50 years trying to earn their respect. Time to stop begging for what we can take. Over the following weeks, the plan moved forward like a careful dance. Diplomat Jin continued attending council meetings, smiling and nodding while aliens made decisions about humanity's future. His reports were filed on time. His responses were polite and helpful. Dr. Nam's teams worked around the clock, copying decades of research data. They discovered that humans had contributed to over 60% of the Council's technological advances. Medical breakthroughs, engineering solutions, scientific discoveries, most of the galaxy's progress came from human minds. Commander Bay began the quiet evacuation. Human workers received messages about family problems that needed their attention. Researchers got offers for new positions in human space. Military personnel were reassigned to routine duties closer to home. The Council noticed nothing. To them, humans were predictable and stable. A few personnel changes meant nothing. Engineer Song and her teams prepared the shutdown sequences. Every jump gate humans had helped build contained hidden command codes. Every power plant designed with human input had secret override switches. Every communication relay using human technology could be turned off with a single signal. Captain Kang gathered the human exploration fleets. Ships that had been mapping the outer rim for the Council quietly changed course. They began heading home, bringing with them detailed charts of unexplored regions that only humans had seen. Meanwhile, Scientist O put the finishing touches on humanity's secret technologies. The quantum resonance networks were just the beginning. Humans had developed self-repairing materials that could rebuild themselves at the atomic level. They had consciousness-assisted computers that thought faster than any artificial intelligence. They had dimensional engineering that could fold space like paper. The Council had seen none of it. Humans had learned to keep their best discoveries private after too many thefts and betrayals. Admiral Lim moved the human fleet into position. To outside observers, it looked like routine training exercises. But every human ship was now within quick reach of human space, ready to defend or evacuate as needed. The most important part was the timing. President Cho had chosen the date carefully. The Council would be holding its quarterly assembly, with representatives from every member species present. The perfect moment for humanity's announcement. As the weeks passed, alien delegates noticed small changes. Human technology seemed to require more maintenance than usual. Communication networks had occasional glitches. Some of the older human-built systems started showing their age. But the aliens weren't concerned. Technology always needed updates and repairs. They had their own engineers to handle such problems. They had no idea that the glitches were tests. The maintenance requirements were preparations. The aging systems were getting ready to shut down permanently. Dr. Nam completed the data transfer with 3 days to spare. Every piece of human knowledge was now safely stored in human space, with multiple backup copies hidden across their 12 worlds. Commander Bay reported that 97% of human personnel had been quietly recalled. Only essential diplomatic staff remained, and they would leave at the last moment. Engineer Song confirmed that all shutdown sequences were ready. When the time came, she could paralyze the Council's infrastructure with a thought. President Cho stood at the observation deck of Luna Base, looking out at Earth spinning slowly below. Humanity was about to take the biggest gamble in its history. They were walking away from the largest civilization in the galaxy, betting that they could build something better on their own. The Council had taught them one valuable lesson. Respect could not be asked for. It had to be earned or taken or taught through absence. In 3 days, the universe would begin learning what it had lost. Ambassador Kim walked into the Galactic Council chamber for the last time. She carried a single sheet of paper in her hand, printed on real Earth paper that most aliens had never seen before. Her steps echoed in the vast space as thousands of alien delegates found their seats. The quarterly assembly was the Council's biggest event. Every member species sent their most important representatives. Trade agreements were signed, territorial disputes were settled, and new policies were announced. Today would be different. Kim took her place at the human section. Only 5 other humans sat with her, the minimum required by Council protocol. The rest had already left on various pretexts over the past weeks. Council Speaker Zenth, an ancient ethereal, floated to the center stage. Its light pulsed in complex patterns as it began the traditional opening ceremony. Representatives of the galaxy, we gather in peace and wisdom to guide our civilization forward. The first several hours proceeded normally. The Vorthak Empire announced new military exercises near the Rim territories. The Silicon Syndicate reported improvements to their manufacturing algorithms. Various smaller species requested resources or arbitration for minor disputes. Kim listened with half her attention. Hidden in her earpiece, she could hear quiet reports from human agents throughout the galaxy. Commander Bay had just evacuated the last human workers from the Council's research stations. Captain Zhang was ready with the final transport ships. Engineer Song had her finger over the shutdown controls. Finally, Speaker Zenth called for new business. The floor recognizes Ambassador Kim of the human species. Kim stood and walked to the center of the chamber. Thousands of alien eyes, sensors, and other sensory organs focused on her. She had practiced this moment many times, but now her heart was beating fast. Council members, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. Humanity has served in this council for 50 years. We have shared our knowledge, contributed our resources, and followed your guidance faithfully. Some delegates nodded politely, others seemed bored. The Vorthak representative was examining his claws, barely paying attention. Today that ends, Kim continued. The chamber became quieter. The human species hereby withdraws from the Galactic Council effective immediately. We thank you for teaching us the value of independence. For a moment, the chamber was completely silent. Then the noise began. Alien delegates turned to each other, speaking in dozens of languages. Some laughed. Others seemed confused. A few looked concerned. Speaker Zenth pulsed brighter. Ambassador Kim, perhaps you misspoke. Withdrawal from the Council is not possible. The integration protocols alone would take decades to untangle. Kim smiled. We've already untangled them. She activated the small device in her pocket. Across the galaxy, Engineer Song received the signal and pressed a single button. The lights in the council chamber flickered and went out. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, but the main communication system stayed dark. The giant display screens that showed data from across the galaxy went blank. What is happening? Demanded the Vorthak representative. Kim pulled out her sheet of paper. This is a list of human contributions to galactic civilization. Communication networks, transportation systems, power distribution, agricultural programs, medical technologies, defensive systems, and much more. As of this moment, all of those systems are shutting down. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates were shouting in dozens of languages. Some were trying to contact their homeworlds, but their communication devices weren't working. General Rowe appeared at Kim's side. He had been waiting in the diplomatic section, officially there as a security observer. "Ambassador, the evacuation ships are ready." Speaker Zenth floated closer, its light flashing angry red patterns. "This is impossible. You cannot simply shut down galactic infrastructure. There are safeguards, backups, redundant systems. Built by humans," Kim replied calmly. "We designed the safeguards. We installed the backups. We created the redundant systems. And we built them all with shutdown codes that only we know." Captain Zhang's voice came through Kim's earpiece. "Final transport departing in 60 seconds. A Silicon Syndicate delegate rolled forward quickly. "This is an act of war. You are attacking the entire galaxy." Kim shook her head. "We're taking back what we built. The Council can function without human technology. You told us many times that you don't need us." Dr. Yun appeared with a small team, carrying containers of biological samples. "All human genetic material has been removed from the shared databases," she reported. "Medical records, research samples, everything." The Vorthak representative stood to his full height, towering over the humans. "You will return immediately. The Council will not allow this rebellion." "The Council will do nothing," General Rowe said quietly, "because the Council can do nothing. Your ships can't navigate without our stellar charts. Your colonies can't communicate without our relay networks. Your trade routes depend on our efficiency algorithms." Engineer Essio appeared near the chamber's main exit. She was carrying a device that looked like a metal briefcase. "Jumpgate network is ready for final shutdown," she announced. Kim felt a cold satisfaction. The jump gates were humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization. They allowed instant travel between star systems, connecting the entire galaxy into one community. They had taken humans 40 years to develop and build. "You're cutting the galaxy apart," an ethereal delegate said, its voice like breaking glass. "We're taking back what we gave freely," Kim corrected. "What you took for granted." Through her earpiece, she heard reports from across human space. All human personnel had been evacuated safely. All human technology had been secured or shut down. The withdrawal was complete. Counselor An stepped forward. She was the most senior human diplomat, someone who had spent 30 years trying to earn the Council's respect. "Council members, humanity offered partnership and received condescension. We offered innovation and received exploitation. We offered loyalty and received betrayal." Her voice carried across the chaotic chamber, cutting through the alien voices. "Today the universe learns what it means to stand without humanity." Captain Zhang's ship appeared outside the chamber's viewing ports. It was a sleek human design, using technologies the Council had never seen. "All passengers aboard," came his voice through the speakers. Kim walked toward the exit, followed by the other human delegates. Behind them, alien representatives were still arguing and shouting. Some were demanding immediate action. Others were trying to figure out how to restart their communication systems. "This will not stand," the Vorthak representative called after them. "The Council will force your return." General Rowe paused at the exit. "With what ships? Your military networks just shut down. With what communications? Your command systems are offline. With what authority? We never signed any agreement that prevented withdrawal." He was right. In 50 years of membership, the Council had never asked humans to sign binding documents. They had been too confident that humans would never leave. After all, where would they go? Engineer Essio activated her device. Throughout the galaxy, jump gates began powering down. The connections between star systems started disappearing one by one. Worlds that had been minutes apart were suddenly weeks of travel away from each other. As the humans walked toward their transport, Speaker Zenth made one final attempt. "What do you want? Territory? Resources? Representation? The Council can negotiate." Kim stopped at the airlock door. "We wanted respect. We wanted equality. We wanted partnership instead of servitude. Now we'll build those things ourselves." Admiral Ko appeared on the ship's communication screen. "Human space is secure. All defensive systems are active. Welcome home." The transport ship pulled away from the station. Through the viewing ports, Kim could see the Council chamber in chaos. Alien delegates were running between different sections, trying to organize some kind of response. But their systems weren't working. Their networks were down. Their carefully organized civilization was falling apart. As they approached the jump point to human space, Engineer Seo made the final shutdown. The massive jump gate that connected Council space to the outer rim went dark. The last link between the galactic core and the frontier territories disappeared. "It's done," General Rowe said quietly. "We're on our own now." Kim looked back at the Council station one last time. "No," she corrected. "Now we're free." The universe was about to discover what 50 years of human innovation had really built. And what happened when the builders decided to leave. Admiral Moon stood on the bridge of his ship at the edge of human space, watching the chaos unfold in Council territory. His sensors could detect the electromagnetic signatures of failing systems across dozens of star systems. What had once been a smooth, connected civilization was becoming a collection of isolated worlds. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving hundreds of distress signals from Council space. Power failures, communication breakdowns, transportation system crashes." Moon nodded grimly. "Continue monitoring, but do not respond. Let them solve their own problems." It had been 6 months since humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council. 6 months of watching the galaxy's most advanced civilization discover just how much they had depended on human innovation. On the planet Vorthak Prime, the military command centers were in chaos. General Thek stared at dark screens that should have been showing fleet positions across the Empire. The humans had built the logistics networks that tracked millions of ships, billions of supplies, and countless personnel records. "How long to rebuild the system?" Thek demanded. His chief engineer, a Vorthak named Gorth, shuffled his forearms nervously. "Sir, we're studying the human designs, but they're incredibly complex. Our best estimate is 15 years. 15 years? Thek's voice was a roar. The frontier territories are already declaring independence. Without our logistics network, we can't coordinate responses to rebellions. Meanwhile, on Ethereal Station 7, the collective's scientists were facing their own crisis. Dr. Leth floated before a wall of dead equipment, devices that had powered their research for decades. "The energy systems are completely shut down," reported her assistant. "We cannot restart them. The humans use some kind of quantum encryption in their power cores." Leth pulsed with frustrated colors. "But we improved those designs. We made them more efficient." "No, Doctor. We thought we did, but the humans only shared the basic versions. The real technology was always under their control. In the Silicon Syndicate's manufacturing sectors, entire factory worlds had gone silent. Unit Prime 9 rolled through empty production halls where millions of items had been created every day. The humans had provided the efficiency algorithms that coordinated the complex dance of materials, machines, and transportation. "Status report," Prime 9 requested. "Production has fallen to 12% of normal levels," responded Unit Secondary 4. "Without human algorithms, our systems cannot coordinate effectively. Materials pile up in some areas while machines wait idle in others. Can we replicate the human systems? We have tried for months. Human coding uses patterns we do not understand. They think differently than we do." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on thousands of worlds. The Aquatic Federation's underwater cities lost their current management systems, designed by humans to work with water flow patterns. The crystalline hive's communication networks went silent, cutting off their psychic links that had been amplified by human technology. Most critically, food production began failing on dozens of agricultural worlds. Dr. Shin monitored the situation from her research station in human space, watching as crop yields plummeted without human-designed growing systems. The agricultural software was managing soil nutrition, water distribution, pest control, and harvesting schedules, she explained to her team. "Without it, they're going back to primitive farming methods." "How bad will it get?" asked her assistant. "Bad. Some worlds will face food shortages within a year." The Council never learned to farm efficiently on their own. But while Council space struggled, humanity was thriving. Scientist No unveiled the first public demonstration of humanity's advanced technologies. The presentation took place on Luna Base, broadcast to every human world. "For 50 years, we shared our basic discoveries with the galaxy," No began. "Today, you'll see what we kept to ourselves." She activated a device that looked like a simple metal rod. Suddenly, the rod began to change. It flowed like liquid metal, reshaping itself into different forms: a tool, a weapon, a piece of art, a communication device. "Self-repairing, self-modifying materials," No explained. "They can become whatever we need when we need it." The demonstration continued with consciousness-assisted computers that could solve problems by literally thinking about them. Dimensional engineering that folded space to create rooms bigger on the inside than the outside. Energy systems that drew power directly from the quantum foam of space itself. Captain Hong led the first expedition beyond the galaxy's edge, using faster-than-light drives that didn't depend on jump gates. Her ships could travel anywhere instantly, without needing fixed infrastructure. "We're detecting signals from other galaxies," Hong reported. "Civilizations that never heard of the Galactic Council. Potential partners who might treat us as equals." Explorer Wu made first contact with one of these civilizations, a species called the Builders who lived in mobile space habitats. They were amazed by human technology and immediately proposed trade agreements. "They don't try to control us," Wu reported. "They don't claim to be wiser because they're older. They just want to work together." Engineer Yang completed humanity's first mobile habitat that existed partially outside normal spacetime. The habitat could appear and disappear at will, making it impossible for enemies to locate or attack. "We're not just independent now," Yang explained. "We're invisible when we want to be." Back in Council space, the various species were beginning to turn on each other. Without the unifying infrastructure that humans had provided, old rivalries were resurging. The Vorthak Empire tried to invade the Crystalline Hive territories, but their ships couldn't navigate properly without human stellar charts. Half the invasion fleet got lost in deep space. The other half arrived at the wrong star system entirely. The Silicon Syndicate attempted to trade with the Aquatic Federation, but without human translation protocols, the two species couldn't communicate effectively. Trade negotiations broke down into confusion and mistrust. Even worse, several Council worlds had started experiencing technical disasters. Space stations began failing structurally without human engineering support. Power plants overloaded without human safety systems. Medical centers couldn't treat patients effectively without human diagnostic software. Dr. Ku watched the reports from her new laboratory in human space. "They're losing decades of technological progress," she observed. "Without understanding how their systems really work, they can't maintain them." Admiral Quan patrolled the border between human and Council space in his advanced stealth ship. Several times, Council representatives had tried to approach human territory, asking for negotiations. "Turn them away," ordered President Cho. "We gave them 50 years to treat us fairly. They chose not to." The most desperate attempt came from Speaker Zenth itself. The ancient ethereal appeared at the border in a small diplomatic vessel, requesting an audience with human leadership. "The Council wishes to discuss terms for humanity's return," its message said. "We are prepared to offer concessions." Quan's response was simple. The Galactic Council made its position clear. Humans are too young and aggressive for equal participation. Nothing has changed. But the infrastructure failures are not humanity's problem. "You told us you didn't need us. Prove it." As the first year of independence ended, the contrast between human and Council space was stark. Human territories buzzed with activity, innovation, and growth. New technologies emerged every month. New alliances formed with species from other galaxies. New worlds were settled using equipment that could adapt to any environment. Council space, meanwhile, continued its decline. Trade networks collapsed without human efficiency algorithms. Scientific research stagnated without human innovation. Military forces became ineffective without human logistics support. Commander Moon established refugee camps for species fleeing the chaos in Council territory. Many were former Council slave races who had been oppressed for centuries. In human space, they found freedom and opportunity. "The Council kept us working in their mines," explained one refugee, a member of the rock-eating Delver species. "They said it was for the good of galactic civilization. But you humans treat us like people." The refugee camps grew into permanent settlements, then into thriving colonies. Species that had been considered primitive by the Council proved to be valuable partners when given proper tools and respect. Dr. Ku began sharing human technologies with these new allies, creating a renaissance of innovation that spread throughout human space. Within months, former Council slaves were contributing ideas that advanced human science. "We should have done this from the beginning," Ku realized. "Real partnership makes everyone stronger." Meanwhile, in the ruins of the Council's authority, desperate leaders were beginning to understand what they had lost. Not just technology or infrastructure, but the most innovative minds in the galaxy. The species that solved problems built bridges between other cultures. and made the impossible seem routine. The universe was learning that strength came not from dominion over others, but from the wisdom to recognize value when you see it, and some lessons could only be learned through loss. 5 years had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. The galaxy now existed in 2 distinct worlds, the declining Council territories and the thriving human sphere. Ambassador Choi stood before the assembled representatives of the Free Species Alliance, watching as former Council slaves signed agreements as equals for the first time in their histories. Today marks the 5th anniversary of humanity's independence, Choi announced to the gathered delegates. More importantly, it marks the birth of a new kind of civilization, one built on respect instead of dominion. The Free Species Alliance had grown to include 47 different races. Species that the Council had oppressed, ignored, or enslaved now worked together as partners. The Delvers, who had been forced to mine dangerous materials for the Council, now used their natural abilities to help build human space habitats. The Whisper Folk, whose psychic abilities had been exploited for Council communications, now served as willing translators between species who couldn't understand each other. Dr. Ku activated a holographic display showing technological advances across human space. In 5 years, we've achieved more scientific progress than the Council managed in 50 years. When minds work together freely instead of being controlled, innovation flourishes. The display showed incredible developments: healing technologies that could regrow entire limbs, manufacturing systems that created objects from pure energy, transportation methods that moved people through folded space, terraforming tools that could turn dead rocks into garden worlds in months instead of centuries. The key difference, Dr. Ku explained, is that we share these technologies freely with our allies. No patents, no restrictions, no keeping secrets to maintain power. When everyone benefits, everyone contributes. Commander Moon had just returned from the frontier territories, where she had been helping species establish their own governments after declaring independence from the Council. 17 more worlds have joined the Alliance this month, she reported. The Council's authority is collapsing faster every year. The collapse was indeed accelerating. Without the infrastructure humans had built, the Council's member species were becoming increasingly isolated from each other. The Vorthak Empire had split into dozens of smaller kingdoms that fought each other constantly. The ethereal collective was breaking apart as their ancient stations failed without human maintenance. The Silicon Syndicate had lost over half their manufacturing capacity and was struggling to produce basic necessities. President Chu received regular reports from Admiral Ko, who monitored the situation from human space. The Council tried to rebuild their jump gate network using Vorthak engineering, Ko reported. 3 gates exploded during testing. They still, don't understand the quantum resonance principles that make instant travel possible. What about their attempts to reverse engineer our other technologies? Complete failures. They keep trying to copy our designs without understanding the underlying science. It's like trying to build a computer by stacking rocks in the same pattern. Meanwhile, humanity had not only maintained their technological edge but expanded it dramatically. Captain Ryu oversaw the construction of humanity's first galactic-scale megastructures, ring worlds that surrounded entire stars, capturing their total energy output. Space elevators that stretched between dimensions. Orbital cities that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. The Council called us too young and aggressive, Ryu mused, as he watched construction crews working in vacuum without protective suits, their bodies enhanced by human biotechnology. They should see us now. The biotechnology was perhaps humanity's most impressive advancement. Working with willing allies instead of being restricted by Council regulations, human scientists had developed ways to adapt any species to any environment. Aquatic races could breathe in space. Silicon-based species could survive on water worlds. Biological incompatibilities became things of the past. Engineer Ha stood on the observation deck of humanity's new capital station, a massive structure that existed partially outside normal space-time. Through the viewing ports, she could see ships from dozens of species arriving and departing freely. No checkpoints, no identity scans, no permissions required. The Council based their power on controlling movement, Ha reflected. We base ours on enabling it. The contrast was stark. In Council space, travel between systems required permits, security checks, and payment of various fees. Many species were restricted to certain areas or prohibited from visiting certain worlds entirely. In human space, anyone could go anywhere as long as they didn't harm others. This freedom had created an explosion of cultural exchange. Art, music, literature, and philosophy flowed between species like never before. The harmony singers, whose music had been regulated by the Council as potentially disruptive, now performed concerts that could be heard across multiple star systems simultaneously. The Dreamweavers, whose storytelling abilities had been feared by Council authorities, now created shared narratives that helped different species understand each other. But the most important development was happening in former Council space itself. Rebellions were breaking out on dozens of worlds as oppressed populations realized that alternatives existed. The Free Species Alliance welcomed refugees and provided support for independence movements. Dr. Shin had established medical centers on the borders of human space, treating anyone who needed help regardless of their species or political affiliation. "We're seeing Council citizens arriving daily," she reported. "Not just refugees, but people who want to live in a free society." Some of these defectors brought shocking information about conditions in Council territory. Food shortages were becoming common as agricultural systems continued to fail. Medical emergencies were going untreated as diagnostic equipment broke down. Transportation had become so unreliable that some worlds hadn't seen outside contact in months. The Council's desperate leadership was making increasingly poor decisions. They had tried to forcibly conscript technical specialists from member species, but most lacked the education to understand human-designed systems. They had attempted to trade with non-aligned civilizations, but their reputation for arrogance and exploitation preceded them. Most critically, they had started fighting each other for the remaining functional infrastructure. The Vorthak Empire had declared war on the Silicon Syndicate over control of a functioning communication hub. The Ethereal Collective was demanding tribute from smaller species in exchange for basic services. Admiral Ko watched these developments with professional interest but no sympathy. They had 50 years to learn cooperation, he observed. Instead, they chose competition and control. Now they're reaping what they sowed. The end came faster than anyone expected. A coalition of Council worlds, led by species that had previously been considered minor members, sent a formal surrender offer to humanity. The message arrived at the Free Species Alliance headquarters on a simple radio transmission. Most of their advanced communication systems no longer worked. President Chu read the message aloud to the Alliance Council. The former Galactic Council formally requests negotiation for the peaceful dissolution of our government and the establishment of a new galactic confederation based on principles of equality and mutual benefit. The terms they offered were comprehensive. Complete dismantling of the Council's hierarchical structure, equal representation for all species regardless of age or technology level, free sharing of all remaining Council databases and resources, and acceptance of the Free Species Alliance's Charter of Rights. "They're not asking for mercy," Admiral Ko observed. "They're begging for it." The Alliance debate was surprisingly brief. Despite years of oppression and recent abandonment, the consensus was to accept the surrender and help rebuild galactic civilization on better principles. "We're not interested in revenge," Ambassador Choi explained during the negotiations. "We want to build something better." The new Galactic Confederation was established with humanity, serving not as rulers, but as facilitators. Human technology and expertise would be shared freely, but decisions would be made democratically by all member species. The old Council's restrictions on movement, trade, and cultural exchange were completely eliminated. Former Council leaders found themselves in an unusual position. Their previous authority was gone, but they were welcome to participate as equals in the new system. Many struggled with the concept. "How do you maintain order without hierarchy?" asked former Speaker Zenth during one of the integration meetings. "Order comes from cooperation, not control," replied President Chu. "When everyone benefits from the system, everyone helps maintain it." The transformation wasn't instant, but it was dramatic. Within a year, former Council space was experiencing a renaissance. Trade networks rebuilt themselves along more efficient patterns. Scientific research resumed with unprecedented cooperation between species. Cultural barriers that had existed for millennia began dissolving as different civilizations learned to work together. Engineer Ha found herself assigned to help restore infrastructure on former council worlds. Working alongside engineers from dozens of species, she marveled at how quickly problems were solved when everyone contributed freely.